هو في الرياض.
Welcome to Khanversations. I'm Muqtedar Khan, your host, and today I'm going to talk about Putin's visit to the Gulf. In a short period of about 48 hours, Russia's President Vladimir Putin has met MBZ, Mohammed bin Zayed, the ruler of United Arab Emirates. He's already met Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince and the de facto ruler of Saudi Arabia. And today he is meeting Raisi, the Iranian foreign minister, president, in Moscow. So in a very short period of time, Putin is going to meet with some of the most important leaders in the Middle East. I will talk more about Putin's meeting with the Iranian president in a subsequent conversations. But in this, I just want to discuss the geopolitical significance of Putin's visit. So this is a significant move on a diplomatic and strategic move on part of Putin. So I want to reflect a bit on it. What are the reasons why he's doing this? What are the implications of this visit going forward? But before I do that, please, if you have not yet subscribed to Khanversations, do subscribe to Khanversations, ring the bell icon, press the bell icon so that you get notifications for future videos. Like the video and be sure to share it with your friends and your socio-political network. So number one, the most striking feature of this was the receptions that Putin has received both in Dubai and Riyadh. In Dubai, of course, he was received with an escort of UAE's jets. Putin himself flew with an escort of 4 S-35s. And given that United Arab Emirates Air Force is merely composed of US fighter planes, I wonder if it was F-35s or F-16s, which were flying with Russian flags in their wake. He was given a grand welcome and he had a meeting with Mohammed bin Zayed. The reason for his visit for UAE ostensibly is to discuss the two wars, his war in Ukraine and the Hamas-Israel war in Gaza. As we know, clearly the United Arab Emirates is a signatory to the Abrahamic Accords. They have been more sympathetic to Israel than they have been to Hamas. UAE has been a major opponent and critique of the Muslim Brotherhood, and Hamas is a branch of Muslim Brotherhood. And so in that sense, Putin, who is more aligned with Hamas these days than with Israel, that would have been an interesting dialogue. I wish more details about what was actually discussed about the Hamas-Israel war, other than the need to talk about the two-state solution, as well as to find ways for a permanent ceasefire. Beyond that, I don't know. But I think the more critical reason why Putin visited UAE is because UAE and Saudi Arabia both have been kind of neutral on the Russia-Ukraine issue. They have not condemned Russia for its invasion of Ukraine, and they have continued to maintain relations with Russia. In 2022, Saudi Arabia's trade with Russia was about $5 billion, and United Arab Emirates trade with Russia has increased significantly. I think it is in the range of $9 billion now total, and UAE is the most important trading partner in that region for Russia. And while Saudi Arabia is at the moment more focused on investing in China, I think Russia will be also one of the regions where Saudi Arabia will be willing to invest, especially in the energy sector. So, but the US of late has been putting a lot of pressure on United Arab Emirates because UAE is a kind of re-exporter for Russia, and a lot of dual purpose technologies So, for example, chips which can be used either to make laptops or can be used in military hardware. So those kind of exports to Russia from United Arab Emirates has really made both Europe and the United States angry. US has even sanctioned a couple of companies in the United Arab Emirates and have been putting pressure on UAE to essentially ban exports of certain critical technologies to Russia. UAE has not done that so far. UAE wants to maintain its options. While it recognizes that with respect to threats from Iran, UAE is heavily dependent on the US for its security guarantees, and everybody knows that Iran is closer to Russia. UAE still wants to keep its relations with Russia open and positive, and so far has not imposed any ban on trading with Russia. So various companies which can continue to get away from US and European sanctions are continuing to trade with Russia, and I think that will go on for a while. And with the US is perhaps going to be a bit more lenient with Arab countries when they do not cooperate with the US on the Ukraine issue, as long as they are willing to cooperate with the US on the Israeli issue. So in a sense, the United States now obvious Israel first policy in the Middle East, no matter what happens everywhere in the West. Israeli interests, Israeli actions, Israeli atrocities all should be defended by the US. That is the US policy now in the region. So it is the Israel first, and so everybody else next, whether it's Ukraine or Saudi Arabia or anybody else. So this particular approach of the United States is pushing more and more countries in the Middle East who rely on US for their security and now recognize the US is back in the Middle East in a very big way. They are still keeping their options open. They're hedging their bets by also opening up to China and to Russia. And that it is in that context also we can see Putin's visit to the Middle East in the last 2 days. And of course, there's this sick joke that COP28 is taking place in Dubai, where one of the biggest problems in the environmental crisis faces is the use of fossil fuels, and both Putin and MBZ were talking about basically stabilizing or even raising oil prices, which have been declining in the past few weeks. Oil prices have come down to 70. They had reached 98, I think, a few months ago. And so both Russia and OPEC, that constitute OPEC Plus, are thinking of ways of increasing oil prices. And the way they can do it is basically by reducing supply. So in that sense, it is also an interesting an important visit from the perspective of global energy markets. So basically 3 issues: Russia's interest in making itself more important to global issues such as the Israeli-Hamas war, Russia's interest in trying to stabilize and increase oil prices, and Russia's interest in continuing to have trade relations with UAE and to increase it, in fact. Russia's visit to Saudi Arabia was also quite fascinating to watch. Look at the video here, the high fives that they gave in the past, and now the manner in which Putin and MBS really met indicates as if they are really very good old friends. This is quite a contrast from the fact that MBS meeting with Biden when they met last time had to be orchestrated. It was a big deal that at the G20 summit, Biden shook hands with MBS, and from that photograph, you can see that neither seemed very friendly or pleased with each other. After all, Biden had promised to make Saudi Arabia a pariah state. And this is also a signal to Biden that Biden's efforts, and basically not just Biden's, but US and European efforts to completely isolate Russia and make Putin a pariah are failing, because he's not only being welcomed in many capitals of the world, but he's being welcomed as a dear friend as an important ally and as a partner. So in that sense, it shows that the U.S. policy towards Ukraine and Russia-Ukraine war is not really as effective as one would have thought it would be. Additionally, the declining interest in Ukraine with regards to the US Congress, which is not yet ready to fund the Ukrainian war, is attaching it to certain issues such as America's border and immigration, which the Democrats are not going to move easily, clearly shows that the salience of Russia's invasion of Ukraine is diminishing globally, allowing Russia to once again become a more important player in global geopolitics. Also, both Hamas's horrible attack on Israel and Israel's genocidal response are also indications that one of the most important pillars of US foreign policy in the Middle East, the Abrahamic Accords, is failing. One of the consequences of the Abrahamic Accords was that what we are seeing now should not have happened. Israel was supposed to curtail its expansion of settlements, but we see more violence, more settlement building, even terrorism by settlers in the West Bank. And we were supposed to witness some kind of a rapprochement between the Palestinians and Israelis. Neither of those two has happened. Now, from a realist perspective, if you see, Russia can really do very little and is doing really very little other than trying to move some resolutions in the UN Security Council and taking advantage of the situation to advance its own acceptability in the international system. But Russia is doing very little and can do very little when it comes to the Israeli-Hamas war. Russia is not moving troops there. Russia is not sending aircraft carriers. Russia is not pressuring Israel to do anything. Yes, it is calling for a ceasefire, but no punitive threats have been made in case there is no ceasefire. So from that point of view, Russia's impact on the war itself directly is minimal, except to shake the confidence and make people in Washington more worry more about the consequence of the Israeli response, broadly speaking. And there are many responses. One, that more and more countries in the Middle East are becoming warming towards Russia. There has been complete in the global South, except for India. Most of the global South has condemned Israel's counteroffensive. The United Nations vote called for a ceasefire. So Russia, China, and most of the global South have moved further and further away from Israel and closer to the Palestinian cause. There is clearly a demand from everybody, including the United States, for a two-state solution to be implemented, including India also has been supporting the two-state solution. So in that sense, Israel has become more and more isolated in its political position, enjoying only limited support from Europe. And of course, America is the only country which is actually providing substantive support to Israel. And in this context, Russia has suddenly emerged out of its shell of isolation. And so now Putin is traveling. He would have gone for the BRIC summit also if it hadn't been for the fact that South Africa is a signatory to ICC, International Criminal Court, which has issued a warrant for his arrest. But I suspect that we will see more traffic to Moscow and also Putin visiting more and more countries which are part of the global South as well as OIC. So I hope you found this brief discussion of the implications of Putin's visit to the Middle East interesting. If there's any change, the number one change will be more trade, I think, with UAE and perhaps also with Saudi Arabia. Even though they compete in selling oil, they might help each other by trying to raise the prices of oil. So please, if you have enjoyed it, do subscribe to Khanversations, like the video, press the bell icon, and don't forget to share it with your social network. Until next time, this is Muqtedar Khan, your host.